Thank you for tuning in to the Island Treasures podcast. We value the insights shared by our guests and hosts, but it's important to note that their personal experiences are intended to inform and encourage, and not to replace professional, legal, or medical advice. With that, we are ready for today's exciting episode. Welcome to the Island Treasures mini podcast for caregivers. This episode is brought to you by Alongside Caregiver Consulting. And I am your host and caregiver consultant, Alison Van Schie from beautiful Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada. On Mother's Day this year, my guest, who is also from Vancouver Island, shared a short and encouraging story about how she, as a long-distance caregiver, found a unique way to connect with her mom. So join me now as I welcome Kathy Neuhauser. Thank you for joining me today, Kathy.
It's a pleasure, Alison.
On Mother's Day, you told a story about your mom, and I'd love for you to share that with the listeners. So take it away.
I sure will. On Sunday, we sang a song that is something that I sang to my mom when she was the last year of her life, and I wanted to be in touch with her, and I was 1,000 kilometers away from her in Medicine Hat. I am here in the valley. And it all began with me going to her room in the hospital a year earlier when I was in Medicine Hat, and she had been ill. And as I came into the room and I saw my mother lying on the bed, looking so frail, and this is my mom, who was a very competent woman, accomplished woman in every way in her life, and that really hit me quite hard. And so I'm thinking, could I do something special for her? Words seem to be inadequate. And my mother had swollen ankles. She had a problem with swollen feet near the end of her life. And I'm thinking maybe I could rub them. Now, here's the thing about my mom and me is that we weren't a touchy-feely sort of relationship. And so there weren't a lot of hugs. When we would say goodnight as children, we would kiss her on the cheek, but there wasn't any of the really overt hugging. And so I said to Mom, Mom, would you like me to rub your feet? And she looked at me and she gave a little smile. She said, yeah, that would be nice.
Beautiful.
And so I rubbed her feet just gently. And it was so awesome for me to see her visibly relaxed and her eyes closed, and just this peaceful look came over her face. And that was an awesome moment for me. And then I thought, what else could I do? And so I sang to her. Now, I don't know if this was the song that I sang at that time. This is one of the songs that I sang later, and it is Jesus is All the World to Me. So I just sang it gently to her, and she just really, really appreciated it. Later on, when I came back to the island and I called Mom and was talking about it, she said, you know, Kathy, when you sang to me that day, my roommate in the hospital room really appreciated that. And I thought, I'm so glad I did it, because I do not like to sing solo unaccompanied. And so it was a step out of my comfort zone for me. But then I thought, you know what? Maybe I could phone her and sing her a hymn often. And so that started a practice of every evening I would find a favorite hymn in our hymn book, and I would call Mom and I would sing it to her. And she really, really appreciated that. And one time I thought, Mom, so do you want me to sing to you tonight? She says, of course, I've been waiting for this.
So you'd been looking for a way to connect with your mom.
Yes.
Especially long distance, and you found that you could sing over the phone.
Amazing, yes.
That's awesome, yeah.
Yes.
So you stepped out of your comfort zone, and it is quite daunting to sing in front of other people. Like there was somebody else in the room. Yeah.
But it was my mom.
Yeah.
And I felt affirmed by her in a wonderful way when she told me how much she appreciated it. So that was a good thing.
Well, I was touched because you had sought to find a way to connect with your mom, and you had reached out to her. Like I said, you'd stepped out of your comfort zone and you were 1,000 kilometers away from her. And yet, as a caregiver, and you were a long distance caregiver at that time, you still needed that connection, and you found a way to do it, and you shared with us all. And that was brilliant. So thank you.
You are so welcome. It was a pleasure.
If you are a caregiver, or like Kathy, a long-distance caregiver, and find yourself needing supports for your caregiving journey, I invite you to tap into alongsidecaregiverconsulting.ca. I recognize how precious your time is, especially as caregivers, so this mini podcast is designed just for you. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and to Kathy Neuhauser, thank you for sharing your story. Take care.